Why do the rumors about Jordan Kyrou bother me as much as they do?
Hey, this is Brayden Chen.
Subscribe to Lock On Blues.
You're Locked On Blues, your daily podcast on the St. Louis Blues. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome back to Locked On Blues. I am your host of Locked On Blues, Haley Taylor Simon, talking to you all things about our St. Louis Blues here in the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today on Locked On Blues, I want to address something. This was something that somebody left in my comment section. Why are you so bothered about the rumors surrounding Jordan Kyrou if there's no truth behind them? I want to address that because I feel like I've addressed my annoyance about the rumors being made up, but I haven't addressed why, as a whole, this bothers me. I think it's a very interesting answer because I had another comment of somebody saying, Hale, he could always waive his no trade clause. Why don't you talk about other teams that he would fit in with? But you're feeding into their rumors. And again, I don't agree with that opinion. I like that we all have different opinions. But I think when it comes to Jordan Kyrou, it is so easy to just say, hey, let's get rid of him. Let's trade him, whatever, and not appreciate the type of player that he is. So I want to talk to you about that on today's episode of Locked On Blues. But I do want to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code Locked On NHL for $20 off your first purchase. I hope everybody is having a good Friday. I know I am. It was a beautiful day outside. Baseball is back after the All-Star break. So life right now for me, pretty good. July 18th, we're inching closer and closer to the start of hockey season. Crazy, right? But there's something that's a talking point all summer, a point of conversation, of rumors, of stories, of controversy, and that is Jordan Kyrou. It's a really interesting subject, actually, surrounding Jordan Kyrou. I know I brought him up yesterday when I was talking about, the all-time greatest draft picks that the Blues have had. He was drafted 2016, 35th overall in the second round. That was the fifth pick. The reason why I mentioned that is because if Jordan Kyrou was drafted in the first round, okay, maybe some of the critiques that people have early on to his career, not now, I could be a little bit more understanding. But yes, while he is an early second round draft pick, I have to say he has been quite impressive. More impressive than any of the scouts made him out to be. It's funny. I'm around the same age as some of these players now. He's 27, I'm 26. And I have grown up literally in my young adult years watching Jordan Kyrou. I think it's really easy. And again, I don't know why this is easy, but for people to just say, oh, well, he's not a good player. Okay, well, where is your factual statements behind that? Where is the statistics? Where is the proof? I want to know. Then I get told, Haley, you're just a Jordan Kyrou defender. He can do no wrong in your eyes. And that it is an inaccurate statement. Before I talk to you about statistics, I want to bring this up. There was nobody that criticized and critiqued Jordan Kyrou about his turnovers than I did this past season. I brought this up all of the time. And quite honestly, you can't defend it, okay? It was bad. And he makes these little careless mistakes on the ice that he can improve on with his positioning of drawing back to play some defense when there is a turnover, which a lot of times it's on his end. But the point is, yes, there is things that Jordan Kyrou can fix. I am not always going to defend him. But what I do defend is backed up by facts, factual statements, which in this case are statistics. You see, we base our opinion in hockey off of a couple things: what we see on the ice during games, statistics, and our opinions. And to have a good opinion, you usually want to have that backed up by facts. Having an opinion without facts, it's fine. But when somebody makes the argument, okay, you think Jordan Kyrou is this bad player who can't produce on the ice. Can you tell me why? The turnovers. Okay, totally understand that. I saw that. I watched that happen. But can you talk to me about his scoring? He could score more goals. You do realize that Jordan Kyrou has scored 30 plus goals in the past 3 seasons. That right now, after this last season, he ranks 16th in the NHL for most goals scored. You know, he could do more. Okay, well, what else do you want him to do? Please explain. And then you can't. That is where my frustration comes down to. It's not the fact that people don't like him. You don't have to like every player that wears the blue note, believe it or not. It's funny. There was a little bit of a throwback NHL quiz on Twitter, and it was Chris Pronger, again, one of the most beloved players here in St. Louis. And it got me thinking, you know, like there are certain players that people just gravitate towards. Pronger was one of them. And for whatever reason, Kyrou isn't. And the reason I brought that up about Chris Pronger was just because it was a name that is very likable here in St. Louis, a name that people still gravitate towards. I mean, he was a great player. So again, at the end of the day, I completely understand. But let's continue talking about Jordan Kyrou, because this to me is where we get things going. In the 2018-2019 season, he only played 18 games. In those 18 games, again, remember, Kyrou was drafted in 2016. So again, very young. 1 goal, 2 assists, 3 points. Okay, you know what? He played about 9 minutes a game. Only 16 games, not a big deal. 2019-2020, again, bubble hockey time, played 28 games, 4 goals, 5 assists for 9 points total. He played about 10 to 11 minutes per game. So yes, that was an improvement from the previous season. This is where things get interesting for Kyrou. 2020-21, 55 games played, 14 goals, 21 assists, 35 points. Played about 14 and a half minutes. So you can see from 2018 to the 2020-21 season, he made drastic improvement. And the reason I bring up those 3 seasons together is because those 3 seasons are the least amount of games that Jordan Kyrou has played in a singular season. Okay? 21-22. Jordan Kyrou played 74 games. Okay? Ready for this? 27 goals and 48 assists, accumulating 75 points. He was plus 10. He did have 20 penalty minutes, but about 16 and a half minutes per game. Wow. And that is a career high, by the way, that Kyrou has when it comes to point total. A career high when it comes to assists, not when it comes to goals. But you see what I'm saying? He made tremendous improvement developing. He stepped up his game big time. And for that in itself, it just shows you in that small sample size now of those 4 seasons, hey, this is a player that drastically improves every season. So let's continue on. He played 2022-23, 79 games, so 5 more games in the previous season, 37 goals, 36 assists, 73 points. Whew. Kyrou, 18 minutes average per game. Then we move on to 23-24. He played all 82 games with 31 goals and 36 assists, 67 points. Fell back a little bit, okay, a little bit when it comes to goals. But again, you're scoring over 30 plus goals in a season. That's fine. And then this past season, he played all 82 games for a second consecutive season with 36 goals and 34 assists for 70 points plus 23 and only 20 penalty minutes. So with the statistics that I just read to you, and again, I'm not trying to be snarky. I'm not trying to come at you by any means. Would you tell me that this is a player that's not valuable on ice? Now I know what you're going to say. Oh, it's just goals and assists. Okay. But let's say for how it is, isn't that his job? Like, isn't that Jordan Kyrou's job to score? Like, seriously, I don't know what else you expect from him, but he played a total of 416 games with 150 goals and 182 assists for 332 points. That to me is pretty good, okay? But let's go look at something else. His career playoffs. He has played 28 playoff games, 11 goals, 2 assists, 13 points total. You can make the argument, and I wouldn't argue with you. Hey, Hale, when it comes to the playoffs, while he did score 3 goals this past season out of 7 games, maybe he needs to work on his passing to, accumulate some more assists. That's fine. He didn't have any assists, but I would rather Jordan Kyrou score goals and assists. But again, I completely understand if you say to me, hey, Hale, in total, out of those 28 playoff games with 11 goals and 2 assists, I would like to see that number go up just a little bit. I think the turnovers are actually more of a problem. His positioning wasn't always the best. He played a little bit nervous. He wasn't fast enough. Okay, you were giving me actual factual reasons. Did you like that? Actual factual reasons as to why you were criticizing him, critiquing him. But what I just read to you, again, was a small sample size of statistics about what his job on this team is to do. It's to produce goals, produce plays, and honestly, he's done a pretty good job of that. I am going to take a pause and talk to you about my friends over at Game Time, but we're going to dive back into this conversation because there is a lot that needs to be said about the outsiders who are not Blues fans necessarily. We've all been there, logging on early and waiting forever for concert tickets just to go on sale, only to lose your spot for a show you've been dying to see. Live music should be about making memories, not dealing with the stress of ticket shopping. That's where Game Time comes in. Game Time makes getting concert tickets faster and easier than ever. Prices actually drop as it gets closer to showtime. And you can save up to 60% off with killer last minute deals. For me personally, I am so tired of scrolling, never finding a deal that I want. And I feel like not only am I wasting my time, but I'm also losing money because the deals that are really good, I might be passing up on. But with Game Time, luckily, they make it convenient because they show you all of the best deals for the best price and you can see where you're going to sit. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. When we have conversations about these rumors, right? And I would love to talk to a Jordan Kyrou hater, actually. Like, that would be, for me, an ideal guest at this moment because Kyrou has been such a big talking point. But the reasoning that we're talking about Jordan Kyrou is for something that I don't like or I agree with, and it's because of the constant disrespect. So if you're a Jordan Kyrou hater or you know a Jordan Kyrou hater, please send them my way. Again, my Twitter at Haley T. Simon. Or if you just want to message Locked On Blues, would love to talk to you about why you dislike Jordan Kyrou and maybe the reasoning as to why you want the Blues to trade him and why you think that would be beneficial. I think for me, when we're talking about, improving St. Louis, right? Call me crazy, but the idea of trading Jordan Kyrou doesn't come to my mind. When I think of improving this team, I think of the defense. I think of maybe having a stronger center core in the second center spot. That's not shade on Braden Shen, but I'm just saying that there is things that this team could improve on um, other than Jordan Kyrou. And I feel like it gets old. And I get comments all the time saying that I defend him too much just because I like him as a person doesn't mean that, he is the best player on this team. But did I ever say that Jordan Kyrou was the best player on the Blues? No. Who is the best player on the Blues? Oh, I'm glad you asked me, baby. It is Robert Thomas and Jordan Binnington. And if you want to go defense, Colton Parayko. Those are my three guys, all guys, by the way, that are going to probably be on Team Canada for the 2026 Winter Olympics. But never once have I said Jordan Kyrou is the best player on the St. Louis Blues. I have never said that. Did I say that he's a great player? Absolutely, because when Jordan Kyrou gets hot, he gets hot, and Rudy is fun to watch, okay? So for me, number one, if you want to say that I'm a defender of him because I like him as a person, not true. I have worked in hockey. This is my 5th year working in hockey. And I've had great conversations with players. Eric Johnson, I actually posted a clip about him. I had a great conversation with EJ. We talked a little bit about his time in St. Louis and just, playing over 1,000 games in the NHL. He had a nice message for Braden Shen prior to Shen's ceremony. And again, great conversations with him. Now, and maybe EJ is a bad example because he ended up just whatever. You know what? That's a bad example. But who else can I use that's a player that I liked? Okay, I don't want to be rude. Now I'm like, okay, wait, I don't want to call out players. And I've talked to hundreds of players in the NHL. Ooh. You know what? No, I'm not going to do that to him. Okay, I'm just going to say anonymously. Okay? There was a player that I talked to anonymously. I thought this guy, nicest guy off the ice. He did a lot for the community. He was good to talk to with media. And I always had great conversations with him. On the ice, not good. He no longer plays in the NHL anymore, but I'm not going to say a name. There's a lot of guys that don't play in the NHL anymore, by the way, that I've talked to. And I criticized him with how he played. Now, if we talked about, the community events, the charity events, and other things like that, great conversation. But when it comes to, how you play on the ice, I'm not going to sugarcoat it because I like you as a person. If you're not playing a good game, sorry, you're going to get the same critiques that I get to any other player if I like you or not. So I think for people to have that narrative of, well, he's likable, so that's why people don't critique him. No. You know what? I've had positive interactions with Jordan Kyrou. I have. I've spoke about that. You've heard the audio. It has been positive. But that doesn't matter to me. Okay? A player could be rude to me. Now, luckily, I haven't had that happen ever in my 5 years. Players know how to be professional, and I respect that about professionalism. Anyways. But even if a player was rude, you know what? No, There's one player, one time, who on his burner account, and I knew it was a burner account, did not like the report that I made about him. And you know what? When I see him, professional. That happened one time. And I know that it's this specific player because not a lot of players have burner accounts, okay? But this one does, still does. Anyways, so again, this player, ironically, I'm this is a great example. I'm going to keep it anonymous. Had a fantastic game. Played really strong hockey. And you know what I did? I reported just that. This player is a forward. Again, not going to say who, not anybody on the Blues right now. But I posted that. This blank player played a really strong game, was great on the faceoffs, great positioning. I'm not going to get into too much detail because I don't want to have it be so obvious, but I can say it doesn't matter how a player treats me as a media member. I am going to be honest. And I think the problem that we have is this. We want to take a story and we want to run with it, What teams could Jordan Kyrou what teams could Jordan Kyrou sign with and waive his no trade clause? Okay, that's a story that would get you clicks. That's a story that would get people to comment, to get interaction with. But there's something that I take pride in called ethics. And why would I want to be somebody that knows that Kyrou wants to be here in St. Louis, that knows that Doug Armstrong doesn't want to make any more moves, that knows how hard it has been for Kyrou to win over the fan base and do the cheap story that's going to get clicks? Now, I know there was talk from actual NHL reporters such as Chris Johnston that the Canadiens had some interest in Kyrou. And this was prior to his no trade clause kicking in. Okay, you know what? If I wanted to do an episode then about, could Jordan Kyrou fit in with the Montreal Canadiens? Sure, I could have done that. And that's fine. I could have made an article I write now, doing stuff with the Blues. Okay, I could have done that. I didn't, but I could have, and that would have been fine. But then post his no trade clause kicking in, there hasn't been talk. And I can confirm that. Right now, there's nothing happening. So I guess what I'm trying to say is this. If I have a conversation with Kyrou, right, able to interview him again, and I'm able to find out some information, and he says to me, or his agent says to me off the record, hey, Hale, you should kind of maybe look in right now to a team like Montreal. Again, this is not anything that's happening. I'm making up a hypothetical. Okay, I would do it because there's literally proof behind it, right? Newsflash, there's nothing. Nothing. So why would I do that? And that is why, if you want to say I'm too positive, I'm not talking about the what ifs enough, it's because it's old. I wouldn't mind doing the what ifs when it comes to other players, but when there is one player who continuously gets targeted, I'm not going to feed into, the get rid of Kyrou campaign going on. So I'm sick of talking about it, honestly. I just want to talk about, my excitement for next season and what he can bring and, all the good stuff. But when I'm seeing comments about, why are you defending him? It's not that I'm defending him. It's that I am defending the player that put up 70 points last season, the player who scored 30 plus goals in the past 3 seasons, the player that is ranked number 16 in the NHL for most goals scored in this previous season. Again, it's not that difficult to look at statistics and to say to yourself, you know what, maybe he isn't this horrible player that people paint him out to be. Really fast, yes, it is Friday. Are we feeling blue? Was this a good week or a bad week for the STL Blues? I am going to say it was a good week. We had the schedule reveal, planning my trip out to St. Louis. So for me, it's going to be a financially rough week. No, I'm joking. I'm not going to buy it yet. But all in all, it's good. Nothing too crazy is happening. It's summer right now, so not expecting a lot of news. But hey, you never know. You just never know what's going to happen. If anything does happen, and I say this all of the time, yes, I do emergency episodes, so stay tuned for that. But hey, listen, if nothing happens and we have a chill weekend, I will talk to you on Monday. Or maybe I'll check in a little bit over the weekend. We'll see. But I'll talk to you next week. And like always, let's go Blues.